Welcome to another episode of Heartfelt Conversations with Wedera Kibinda. I am Wedera Kibinda, your favorite thought provoker and conversation starter. And what a beautiful journey it has been so far. We've spoken about raising teens, we've spoken about communication, we've spoken about cross-cultural marriages, and today I'm going to tell you what we're going to be talking about. But before that, thank you for engaging with us on our socials, on family media, on family radio, family TV. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A big shout out to all our partners who help us to keep Jesus on the airwaves. We are because you are. And if you'd like to partner with us and be part of this greater grand picture, did I tell you first we're celebrating 25 years of family media? 25 is a whole big deal. So if you want to partner with us, send a text written partner to 20316 or send a WhatsApp message on 0786 316 316. On my set today, we're going to be talking about when life happens. We're going to be talking about grief, loss, and rebuilding. The word of God in Psalms 34:18 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed spirit." What a great assurance. On my episode today, on my show today, I am joined by Pastor Mweni Wambua. You're a grief and authenticity coach. I have known you for many years, and it's such an honor and a privilege to have you on set today. I'm also joined by Caroline Kusimba, a purpose and vision coach. I can't wait to hear what all that is about. So, when I, your favorite thought provoker, has one coach on set, know that it's going to be hot. Now, when we have two coaches on set, it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. So take your pen and paper, buckle up for the ride, because today we are getting raw and we're getting vulnerable. Welcome to Heartfelt Conversations. I'll start with you, Pastor Mweni. Wow. What a wow. That's what we say here. What a wow. What does a grief recovery and authenticity coach do?
Okay. Thank you for having me, Waithera. It's such a privilege to be here, and we thank God for this day. What does that? What does it mean? What I do? Essentially, what I do, I help people navigate the changes and challenges of life. Loss changes our perspective. Mm-hmm. It distorts our perspective of ourselves. Mm-hmm. It distorts our perspective of God, and it distorts our perspective of the world around us.
Wow.
So what we do is that I help you unpack the emotions that come as a result of grief and whatever loss that you have gone through.
Yeah.
And then as we unpack those emotions, we actually shift perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so
all
we remove it from me, myself, and I individually, personally, I feel. And we remove it from, you've said something else, the perspective of?
You see, we remove it from the perspective of the world has become a bad place.
Uh-huh.
We essentially say bad things do happen, and that is part of life. In this world, you will encounter tribulations.
Yes.
So we are not, just because we are Christians, we are not exempted from tribulations.
Yes.
In fact, sometimes it almost feels like because we are Christians,
therefore,
we will encounter tribulations. We will, because the world is a broken place. So we will encounter tribulations. So the issue is not about encountering tribulations. The issue is about how do we manage tribulations when they come our way.
How do you ride that wave?
How do you ride the wave?
Yes.
How do you process that? How do I manage how do I manage the distortions that come with loss? Because loss makes me think God turned his face away from me. Loss makes me think this has happened because I'm being punished for one thing or the other. And yes, we may have losses because of something that you have done, but we don't always have losses because of things we have done. Sometimes we have losses because life happened. And then it also takes away the perspective of, because I have gone through loss, everyone around me is now beginning to think that that is Pastor Mweni who goes through loss, And so I begin to see you remember the way the people came back and gave a report and said, we look like grasshoppers in their eyes.
Yes.
So we begin to see, I look like a loser in their eyes because I've gone through loss. But that's not it. You go through loss and it is a normal thing in life. Right now, we keep saying that... we keep having these conversations about taxes in Kenya.
Yeah.
Taxes are inevitable.
Yes.
Yeah. And so is loss.
Wow. That's a hard one to chew.
It is.
But life does happen.
Life does happen. If I usually say, if I called for a seminar and said, please come, I'm going to be teaching people how to acquire 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Acquire wealth, get a wife, acquire a degree, buy property, buy land. I will have a full house.
Yes.
But if I call people and say, please come, I teach you how to lose them, nobody will show up. And yet we constantly lose these things.
Yes.
We constantly lose people. We constantly lose opportunities. We are constantly losing. So how do we live with the loss? That's what I do.
I love it. How you help us unpack that. And I love it. And then there is Caroline Kusimba. What does a purpose and vision coach do?
Well, thank you, Waithera, for having me here. It's been a while since we met.
Yes.
Well, a purpose and vision coach. Let me start with purpose. Why purpose? We were all created for a reason, and you were created to do something. So before I became a purpose and vision coach, I didn't know all these things. But I must say, when we met, we were all looking for purpose, where we had met.
Yeah.
And because of that, and because of my experiences, I've been struggling and looking for answers. Why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I doing all this? Then there's vision. When you read the word of God, it says, write the vision down. Habakkuk 2:4. Make it plain and simple. So in my quest of looking for answers because of what I was going through, these are things I came across. Purpose, and I came across vision. So I started looking, what is all this all about? And I started teaching people about vision, but I didn't fully understand, okay, I need someone to help me do this. So when I looked around, apparently we had only one vision coach that I could find online.
Wow.
And not even in Kenya.
No.
So I signed up very quickly because I was looking for answers.
Yeah.
And because I had gone through a purpose class some time back when we met, and then recently also. So I'm a certified purpose and vision coach. I help you seek clarity for why you're here and the vision that God has given you. Because we all have a vision. It is important to have that vision. I mean, if a country like Kenya has a vision, and other countries have their own visions.
Yes.
Why is it as individuals we don't? If you're running a business or if you're employed, the company has a vision.
A vision for you.
But individuals,
you don't have.
We don't. So my role is to help you seek clarity on your vision and help you write it down and follow up and also understand your purpose and ensure that you live to your full potential. Hence, purpose and vision coach.
I love that. And I think when you speak about that, the shocking quote that comes to mind is that the richest place in this world is the graveyard. Because of unwritten books, unwritten songs, unwritten inventions. So I think what I hear is dying empty.
Exactly.
Like you have done everything you need to do and you guide us in doing that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly
I love it. That is hot. I love it. Pastor Mweni, coming to you, I think you have a difficult task in life because, like you said, no one wants to talk about the negative things in life. And every time we talk about loss, most times people think about death, losing someone. So in your definition and to help us demystify, what is loss, what is grief in an easy term?
Okay. Grief is the normal and natural reaction to loss.
Wow, it's natural.
It's normal and natural.
Natural, okay.
That's one definition. Yeah. Another definition is grief is the end of a pattern of life as we have known it.
Wow. So
we have been doing things this way. And then that season, that pattern comes to an end. And now we have to learn how to do things differently. That is grief. Yeah.
I like that. The end of a pattern.
As we have known it.
As I have known it.
Yeah.
So it could be a job.
You know, every time I talk about being a grief therapist, people think, oh, so you only deal with people who have lost loved ones.
Yes.
And yes, losing a loved one is but one of the many grief things that we can go through. There are many things that impact the human heart and cause grief. Before COVID, there were at least 42. I am sure post-COVID, there's a lot more losses that people are beginning to realize and even unpack. But we go through loss in different ways. You move from one house to another. You go through loss. You move children from one school to another. You relocate from one country to another. You start one job. You know, that's a loss. You lose a pet. That's a loss. You know, we don't talk about this, but politicians losing a seat. Think about the energy that we put towards a campaign.
Yes.
The energy, not just for, we're not even talking about the financial resources. We're talking about the emotional energy, the time, you know, the everything that goes into running a campaign. Is it a wonder when politicians lose a seat? They get angry, and you know the emotional charge we have at counting stations when they are counting for, you know, because I mean, I have invested everything into this
to lose by 300 votes,
you know, and you know, number two just goes home. There's not even a silver.
No one remembers number two.
No one remembers number two. And that's the thing. Now, many times we will think, oh, you know, but politicians need to lose. But you know what? Loss is not about who, it's about the experience. So whether it is your favorite politician or not, the fact that they lost means that they go through grief. So it's not a theory conversation, it's a real conversation. And isn't that what healing looks like?
Wow. You make it sound so beautiful. So we are sailing. I lost, but now this is it, you know. But I want to ask you a question. What are common misconceptions around grief and loss? You see, like when you said pet, I first was taken aback because maybe in my environment, I don't think a pet would be something. But I remember there's a time in my family, we lost a pet and my children were besides themselves. And then it hit me, oh my God, do not make an assumption. So what are those misconceptions?
You know, when I was taking my certification to become a grief therapist, there's one loss that I listened and I was like, "Ay, Apana, that didn't relate with me." You know, and it was, and this is something our age mates would go through. You know, you have 18-year-old children, 17-year-old children, and then you decide to have another kabibi. The one we say,
pension baby.
Pension baby, kakutuma remote. Now that baby, who is going to be year one when the sibling is 21, those two children are actually going to go through grief. Being siblings is about shared experiences. These two children
have nothing.
Will not have shared childhood experiences. When this child is 16, this 21-year-old will be 37.
Wow.
They will have a family of their own. So this 16-year-old will be like an older sister, brother of the other one.
Children.
So when they call them and say, hi, it is not my older brother is calling me. It is my older brother is summoning me. So they don't have a sibling relationship. And that causes grief. Because this other child now grows up with only the parents and they look like I'm an only child. They feel like I'm an only child. So these two children will have very different versions of who their parents are. You know, and that's a grief issue. And I was like, when you think about it, there are many types of grief, and grief is around us in so many different ways. Currently, as a nation, with the conversation going on, there's a level of anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief is the one that says, the one that feels like something is about to happen. I don't know what it is, but I need to prepare for it. And that's what makes us think, are there going to be demos on Tuesday? Let's play it. Wait and see. So there's a level of anticipatory grief. We also have another type of grief called vicarious grief. Vicarious grief is grief likely to be suffered by currently the people, our journalists. They are covering all these shootings and they're covering all these things, and it's in their line of work. But are they being debriefed? The things that they are seeing, the horrors that they are seeing, the pain that they are seeing, nobody is helping them debrief sometimes. Yeah. And so what's going on is our journalists are human. And police,
yes,
they go through this. Our medics, the other day we had an interview of medics, and you could see the young lady crying because that's what vicarious grief is. Vicarious grief is, I am not in pain, but I saw human pain and suffering, and I can relate with it.
Yeah.
So those are at least the two griefs that I can see right now at the top of Kenyans. Another one is complicated grief. Am I going to cry over taxes? Am I going to cry over the fact that I can no longer afford to run my business? Am I going to cry? What am I going to cry over right
choose
now?
Choose a struggle.
We say choose a struggle, but you see, these things are happening to us
at the same time.
And grief is not a head process. It's a heart thing. And so it changes us. And they are all happening at the same time. And we get overwhelmed. One of the things that we must agree is that it seems like Kenyans are angry. Very angry. But that anger, part of that anger is because of grief. We have lost so much over time. We keep losing, And we are not talking about material things. We are talking about even the hope. We do grieve over hope. We hoped that with this new election, with this new government, with this new regime, things will be better. And our hope was up here. And now, so there's a level of loss and there's a level of, wow, this is it. This is where we are. And so all these different types of losses are losses that are affecting us. And because emotions are not self-creating, they are not self-dissolving, we must unpack them.
Work,
And if we don't unpack them, they don't go away. They show up in other ways. They show up as disease.
Oh, yeah.
They show up in our bodies as disease. They show up in our relationships. Remember when we had COVID, there was a lot of domestic violence.
Yes.
Why? Because people are grieving losses and therefore they don't have a place to express their losses. So grief is a constant thing that we are experiencing, and therefore it's a constant thing that we must be unpacking. Our bodies are processing units for everything.
Wow. Yeah. Processing units for everything. Carol, I want to come to you. Tell us about your body as a unit. Processing everything. We can only pick it up from there. I know there have been various, turbulences. You've been forced to life, like when life happens, riding a different wave, or when she says about complicated grief, the picture I see in my head is like spaghetti. It's all there. So which one do I pick that is not related, or how do I manage all this? And just be vulnerable on how that riding the wave has looked like for you.
Well, it's interesting. Sister Mweni was my therapist.
Oh, she was your therapist. So we signed my viewers and audience, we did sign. So anyway, yes.
So just to pick up from there, our bodies are
processing
units.
Yes.
I've been through so much.
Yeah.
And at some point, the units died or ended.
Depleted for tokens, for Kenya Power. They are finished.
Before I could even have the energy to think of buying those units, I just needed help.
Wow.
So life happens. When we met, I was in a season of my life where I was asking questions. I had gone through divorce. I'm a mother of 3. I'd been married for 10 years before going through divorce. So when I went through the divorce, I didn't know about grief therapists and all that.
No.
And at that time, even divorce was not something that was being talked about.
Can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it.
Yeah.
That was in 2007. I got married very early. Wow. And when I went through it, I tried to continue with life like normal.
Normal patterns.
Yeah, normal patterns. It's just that now I've moved from a space where everything was the umbrella of, a family
unit,
a family unit to now single unit. If I can use the words of electricity, three-phase and single phase.
To a single phase. Wow.
So now I moved to a single phase, and that's where my life just started happening. Things falling apart. I'm not understanding what is going on. I have children, and when first it was a separation, I had to move out of home because of just domestic issues here and there. We are not agreeing. There's emotional torture, there's physical, there's all these things. So I step out. At least one smart thing I can say I did at that very young age
time, yes.
is step out from this environment just to take care of myself. And at that particular time, I'm also growing in the corporate ladder because I was working. And I didn't realize that whatever was happening at home was also affecting me at work. So I had a good boss who called me and told me, it's interesting, people around you will know what is going on even before you share it. So he told me, whatever is happening in your home front, sort it out.
Wow.
And if you don't sort it out, it's going to fall apart. And already at work, things are falling apart. So choose which one you're going to deal with. So I threw myself at work. And in that season, I didn't have children for almost a year, access to the children. And when I say access, it doesn't mean I didn't see them, but because I stepped out, the children remained at the home, at the home front. And he had to get someone to take care of the children because he was living outside town. But this person who was taking care of my kids made it so difficult for me
to see the children.
So it was always a fight whenever I go to see the children. So I had to seek legal advice on how do I sort this out. So fast forward after 3 years of back and forth, but I managed to get the children. So he filed for the divorce. And when I first got that summon, I didn't know what it was. Like I said, no one was even talking to me about it.
Why?
So when I got the summons, which were delivered at work.
At work?
On a busy day.
The devil is a liar.
So I called the lawyer who sorted me out with the children.
Yeah.
And I said, I've received this. What does it mean? Apparently, she had received the summons. Because she, of course, when we had to get custody for the children, you have to involve a lawyer. And so when he filed, he got in touch with the same lawyer. So the lawyer asked me, where are you? I said, I'm at work. He says, okay, I need you to come and see me. But because I was so bitter, I was angry, I just tell me what is all this before I come to the office. So she explained. And I told her, I don't need to come to the office. I'll sign them. She told me, no. Come to the office. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. So fast forward. After 2 years, the divorce went through. Then another mistake, because again, no one is talking to me. We don't know about therapists and all this. I get into a relationship. And for me, I thought, wow.
Nimefika, I have reached.
Yes. I must say, this person was involved when I'm in this battle back and forth. It sort of like gave me a shoulder to lean on.
The shoulder to lean on.
And looking back, that was the biggest mistake. Because I had not healed from this other relationship. And as I was going through the divorce, because also my mom was from the school of thought that divorce should not happen. And I don't blame her. So for her, I was like, sort out whatever it is that you need to sort out. But you're not getting a divorce. So no one understood me. I didn't understand myself. But life goes on. But this other person seemed to understand me. So I had that shoulder to lean on. So after the divorce was granted in 2012, in 2013, I commit to this new relationship fully. And quickly, when you're in a new relationship, let's look for a house, let's do this, the excitement, there's all this. I had good friends who warned me.
But red was your favorite color, so you did not see the flags.
I didn't see the flags, and they were right there. I painted them white, I must say. So they were pink. Yeah. And pink is a beautiful color. So I step into this relationship, and there's this friend who, she was the whistleblower of my first relationship when there was another woman involved. And when I got into this other relationship, when I was committing, she told me, no, think about it. But did I want to listen? No, but eventually she told me, I'll support you. You're still my friend.
My friend.
Still friends.
Wow, we give her all the flowers.
So by the time I was meeting you, I mean, a new relationship, but within, I think, the first 3 months, I'm thinking, wait a minute. I think that's when, you know, when she says human beings' emotions,
Yeah,
there were too many emotions I was
Yeah.
dealing with because I didn't involve the children in the discussion. You know, the way you assume children get on board. But my son then had just finished his class 8. And he was waiting for the results. And as we were moving into this, we looked for a nice house and everything. And because he had a family, so we wanted this nice big house.
Blended family.
And I had a beautiful house, I must say, with everything that any girl would want. Yeah, a pool and all that stuff. But my son was the last one to come on board. He wasn't open to it all.
Yeah.
But because the father used to work out of town, he had no choice but to come in. So 3 years into this relationship, I started asking myself questions because
Why am I here?
why am I here? I'm not happy. And for the first time, I started listening to my body. I'm living well in the leafy suburbs. I have everything. I resigned from my corporate job, started my laundry business, and I think that's how you knew me.
Yes.
People knew me as the laundry lady. So the business is also doing very well. I have all these corporate clients. I am so busy because it was a startup, but I got a huge corporate client. And with that huge corporate client, so I threw myself at work. I'm not also listening to what's happening in the home. But in the new home front, things are not working out. And I just started asking questions. And in the asking questions, why am I here? I came across the Kingdom Business Solution where they talk about purpose. And it's my friend again who told me, I think you need to attend this.
People need that kind of friend, please, yes.
And she even paid
for the class, yes.
She was out of the country. She lives in Geneva today. She was out of the country. She paid for it. She told me, go.
Attend.
So I attend, and I meet another very close friend who knew what I was going through. So I attend. When I attended the session is when I really started asking myself questions. Is this God who's asked me to come here? What am I doing here? Why am I not happy? But listening to people's conversations, after that event, I signed up for the purpose course. And I could hear all these people talk about purpose. And I'm like, whoa. And they had their statements, you know, the purpose statement. My life is this, my life is that. And I'm like, wow, people are smart. How come I don't know this? But again, my friend led me back to God. So I started, that was my first experience with prayer and fasting, where God does answer.
God answers. Wait, before you continue, allow us. We need to go on a break. And when we come back, we get the second part of this conversation because it's about riding that wave. When life has happened, when you think you have nailed it, and then you realize the basement has a new basement.
Ah, yes.
And that basement, there's also another basement. So let's go on a short break. My viewers and my audience, you're listening, you're watching us. And we're talking about when life happens, grief, loss, and rebuilding. See you shortly after the break.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store, respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back to Heartfelt Conversations with Waithera Kibinda. I am Waithera Kibinda, your favorite thought provoker and conversation starter. And today we are getting vulnerable. We are talking about when life happens, grief, loss, and rebuilding. We have heard from Coach Mweni about the dynamics of grief and loss. And we've had a lot from Caroline Kusimba about riding the wave of divorce, children, business. And now that we are coming back, I'll start with you again. So you have realized and you're asking yourself, why this, why this? And you decide, I need help. So how do you step out of that?
I think it takes God. Because you see, for me, I had friends who would tell me, but I didn't listen. But the friend who pointed me back to God, and I started, that's what I was saying, I started the prayers and fasting. At that particular time, I think there was this Elisha Goodman prayers going around, and I decided to try them. And at some point, you're told to do a 3-day Esther fast. And during that 3-day Esther fast, I felt like I was going to die. A whole day without eating and everything. But I went in because now I needed answers. So when I started the prayers and just understanding and listening to what God is saying, I must say when I went through the session of purpose and leadership that I signed up for, and it was in that space where, okay, we are being vulnerable here, so I'm allowed to mention names of people who walked the journey with me. Pastor Angie Murenga.
Yes.
So she's the one who, when I shared my experience, I think during one of the prayers sessions, I would cry. I would cry my heart out. I hadn't told her what I was going through, but one day she called me and asked me, I'm in prayer, Caro, and your name keeps coming up. Is everything okay? So I shared. And she's the one who asked me, did you ever involve your children in this whole thing? Especially when you left the first relationship into this relationship. I said, no. And then she told me, you know, I don't believe that that is the right relationship for you. And you need to step out. I told her, Pastor Angie, wait a minute. I got divorced.
Then now again. It's just that the society that is judging will judge you further.
And the question she asked, and I remember to date, is, do you want to be right with God or with man?
The hard question.
And I must say, during that time also, it was my experience meeting prophets, and we would have a session with the prophets, and the prophets would give me words of wisdom and also just what God is speaking to them. And they didn't know about my life. But I started, and there's one prophet who just asked me the same question Pastor Angie asked me, because he told me, there's a question you've been asked by a certain woman of God. And this person didn't know my conversation with Pastor Angie. Anyway, so I had to step out. So 2016, I got the courage. Oh, another question Pastor Angie asked me. I want you to go back to your husband and apologize and ask him if he would like to give the relationship a chance.
Wow.
Yes.
They said ex-husband.
Oh, that was the hardest thing I had to do. So apparently children talk. So children, whenever they used to see their father over the weekends or whenever they're together, they would say, what's going on in the new home? Mommy is not happy. The person wasn't violent in any way, but for some reason...
You were not settled.
I was not settled. So when I called him, and that was now a time my son was going to do his Form 4 the following year, when I called him, and I told him, can we have a discussion? And he told me, yes, I already know what's going on. And I don't want whatever is happening to affect our son. Because when we went through the divorce with him, it affected my daughter because she was a candidate in class 8. So it took her a long time to settle. So anyway, we met, had a difficult conversation.
Wow.
After 8 years, we met in person. So I asked the question, but sadly he said, no, we cannot have a relationship because his girlfriend, who is now the wife, was expecting their child. And I have cried. I cried and cried. However, when I was stepping out of this relationship, financially, I have lost. Business was not doing well because now I was the one financing the lifestyle. The business was financing the lifestyle we were having. And you know, now that I have the business knowledge, when you remove money from the business and you're putting it into something else which is not bringing in a return, the business will collapse. So we got heavy into debt because I am financing a certain lifestyle. So even by the time I'm stepping out of this relationship, my business is heavy in debt. I don't know where I'm going, but I had to step out because he told me, step out and I will support you for a certain period of time until your son finishes high school.
High
Because
school.
my son wanted to study abroad. So I step out, living with just what I came with. And again, when you're going through things and again, you're still not meeting a therapist. I have not met
You
her
have
yet.
not met, yeah.
I'm looking, because I'm living in the leafy suburb. I'm also looking for a house in the leafy suburbs. And every house I get and I call him and I tell him, he says no. Until he told me, I want you to look for a house that in the event I am not able to support you, you can comfortably pay for yourself and cater for yourself.
Another hard conversation.
Yes. And then he reminds me, your business is heavy in debt. How do you think you're going to finance all this if you're taking a very expensive house? So I had
You
to,
humble yourself.
yes, and scale down.
I want to ask Pastor Mweni, and because people have, and I'm grateful that Kusimba, you're opening up, because most of the times, and especially I guess maybe as women, we don't have the boldness and the courage to step out. You know, you're like a stamp on an envelope. I must make it by fire, by force. So when someone like Carol comes and sits, how do we sort out that spaghetti mess that is in the brain, it's in the heart, it's in the body, it's manifesting in all ways?
The first thing that we must do is just create space and just listen. Because her cup is full when she comes into my therapy room.
Yes.
Her cup is full. And these are conversations at best she's only having with herself and maybe her God. Very, very few people have another person that they're actually talking to. Remember that we're talking about a girl who's a Christian. We're talking about a girl who's a Christian going through divorce. And so there's a lot of stigma.
And then a Christian leaving a relationship after a divorce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of, my head is bowed, you know? That's not the place to start telling her, you know the Bible says.
Or what were you thinking when you were?
No. This is the place to say, you know what, Carol? Life happens. Divorce, loss, separation, all these things have happened in your life, but they have not happened to your life.
Oh, I love that. In your life, but not to my life.
Yes.
Yes.
So you're not divorced from God. You're not divorced from yourself. The shame that you're feeling, that you're carrying is not personal shame. Because the people who will think, look at this one who's gone through divorce. Some of them are not exactly in marriages that are either
Thriving.
aspirational or inspirational. You know, if that is what marriage looks like, then I don't want to be in it. So the difference between some of them and Carol is that Carol had the courage to step out for her own well-being. So the first thing that I do in my therapy room is just allow you to speak. Create a non-judgmental space, because who am I to judge?
Who am I?
I don't sit that high.
No. Wow. I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So just create a space where we have conversation, candid conversations, authentic conversations, and vulnerable conversations. Because when someone brings their vulnerability to the table, they're opening up their heart. Hearts are sensitive places. So when someone comes to me in such a space, in such a state of mind, it's a place that I go in with a lot of caution. It's also a space that I go in with a lot of love.
It's like being a cardiologist and
Exactly, because there's nothing that I'm going to ask her. There's no judgment that I'm going to throw at her. There's no Bible verse that I'm going to thump her with that she has not asked herself, she has not told herself, and she has not been hit with. Yeah? So why am I doing that? No, I'm not going to do that. But this is what the Word of God says. Broken and contrite spirit, I will not turn away. You know, when we go to God, He doesn't say, what broke your spirit? No. It's simply that you have a broken and contrite spirit. It's simply that a broken reed, I will not turn away. And that's it.
wow. So I come just as I am.
Just as you are.
Just as you are. Carol, so divorce, a wave. Separation, a wave. The children, being children, whether resenting or adapting, that's another wave. So it just feels, the picture I'm seeing in my mind is like fruits in a blender. And everything is everywhere and tossing and turning. But what gave you the courage? Just there are all these voices of coaches, of your ex-husband speaking, of your children saying, but at what point do you call yourself for a meeting and say, Sasa, I have dropped everything, I need help, and this is what I'm looking for?
I think because I was in like you say, a blender, fruits are all over. Sometimes they need to settle
yeah.
so that you enjoy the juice. So when I had that conversation with Pastor Angie, and then I started really analyzing my life, and every time I speak back to God and I read His Word, there are all these questions. Did you ask? I remember one time I was crying, and I asked God, "What is it?" I felt like I'm being punished because of the divorce.
Yes.
I honestly
because
felt
God
was
hates
punishing.
divorce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would read that verse, several times. I said, okay, fine, Lord. Now that I'm here, what do I do? And when I stepped out and I couldn't find a home that was suitable for him, he told me, you know what? Time is running. I have a house in South Sea. Go settle there. And I'll take care of everything, but take care of your own personal bills. You will take care of them. So that is exactly what I did. And you see the way God takes you back.
Yes.
To where we began, or to where I lost it. That wasn't easy, moving back to his house. So I moved back to the house and with the children. And so life started from there.
Where it all began.
While I was there, so now what happened was the children, it was a 4-bedroom house. So the children each had their own room. And the master bedroom, of course, was his. So I lived in the SQ.
Wow.
And then for me, in my head, I thought it was temporary. So I never unpacked.
Because you have not settled physically.
Yes.
Even your mind is not settled.
And it was while I was in the SQ one day, I'm crying and everything, and I hear a voice. My daughter, I didn't send you there.
To the SQ.
I don't know whether it was to the SQ or to what.
Hey.
I didn't send you there.
Hey.
And I have had every cry.
Oh.
Now, the arrangement of me living in his house in South Sea, there was an arrangement or an agreement. Because my son wanted to study out of the country. And remember, he said no because his girlfriend was expecting and he wanted a family. So it was for 1 year. After my son leaves, I'm on my own. And for sure, when my son was done his Form 4 and preparations for him to leave the country for uni, I got the difficult call.
Sasa, madam.
We agreed.
Wow.
And
then you cried some more.
Ooh. Because I wasn't given time.
But there was time. You were told 1 year.
But do you listen?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, I started looking for a house, so I step out.
Yeah.
So I moved now into my own space with my daughter. Now the other two, so the eldest son already had his own family. By that time, the girlfriend was also expecting, so he moved out. But initially in that house, I had all the children with me. So it's my daughter I moved in. But then again, while I was in that setup, my sister brings her children to me. Because she's going through some emotions and everything. She can't take care of her kids. Although when I was in my stable family, the children are always in my house.
Yeah.
And so at some point, I was like a mother to them. So I'm going through separation. I have lost, the business is not doing very well. I'm being brought new children to take care of. And they're under 10, 2. And I'm being asked, okay, now you need to move out. So all these things. So that is when I decided I need help. And the help came, again, me just talking to we have a common friend. I didn't know her then. So I was talking to a friend. I was like, this is what I'm going through and everything. So when she was visiting that friend to buy shoes, I happened to be there. And so she told me what she does. And I was like, I need to speak to this one. So I made an appointment, and that's when the journey started happening. In that therapy room, the first 2 sessions, I just cried.
You were paying for tears.
We didn't even have a session. It was just tears.
I know.
Every time she asks me a question,
Yeah.
I can't
talk.
But that's where the journey started.
That's what she said, because your cup came full.
Yes.
And it's overflowing. I want to remove the conversation from us and talk about children. How do we tell children what's happening? Because I think as adults, we want to protect our children, because also that's what maybe our parents did. And whatever protection means, even because it might end up being, they'll ask you, who told you to do that? And you thought you're doing the right thing. But how do we communicate this grief, loss, a change of pattern to our children? Pastor Mweni.
First of all, you must communicate it in a language that they understand. But even before that, we must give children credit. Because what we tend to think is, hawaoni, they don't hear, they don't see. Remember Carol saying, the children were already seeing.
Yes.
Children are very perceptive. Children do know how we operate. And children can look at you and say, Mommy, you're not happy.
Yes.
They do, and they're perceptive. And just because they don't have vocabulary doesn't mean they don't have capacity to observe. So the first thing to do is call the children and let them see, you know what, this is what's going on. Sometimes the conversation doesn't even need to start from you telling them what's going on, because the children themselves, I've had clients in my room who tell me, in my therapy room, who tell me, my children are asking, what am I doing in this relationship? Because the abuse is going on. Or they can tell. Children can tell. Children are a lot more perceptive than we give them credit for. So find out, where are they? Especially, and of course that depends on what their age is, their capacity to grasp. So you need to find out, you need to assess that. And there's no better placed person to assess where the children are than the parents. Because the parent is you see, even when people go through divorce, the natural reaction is, let me take my children to a therapist so that my therapist can break these things down properly. But here is the thing that I tell people. As much as I'm a therapist and you'll bring your children to me and I can talk to them, but I am not a constant. I see them once a week at most. Even if I see them daily, I am saying they don't live with me.
It's 1 hour.
It's 1 hour.
Or 45 minutes.
I'm a stranger. Okay. Children need safety. The parent is the constant. So it is better for that parent to come to me and tell me, I need to go and have this conversation with my children. I prepare you so that you go and have the conversation with your children, as opposed to you bringing the children to me. That is always a better option. Because children, as much as possible, need to be protected. Now, the conversation about daddy and mommy are getting a divorce should begin from daddy loves you and mommy loves you. Because that love needs to be a constant. They need to be reassured of that love.
Yeah, because I've had children ask, is it because of me?
Because what happens with children, when children are, the perception of children is that when things are happening in a home, the understanding capacity of children at that level is, I am the one that is causing things. Children live in a world of cause and effect. I perform well in school.
Therefore,
good girl. You know, I win an award in swimming. Very well done. And so I'm the one that creates response. I'm the one that causes response. So in the mind of a child, they exist in a world of cause and effect. Okay, so I do this and something happens. I do something bad happens. I do something good happens. I don't eat my vegetables, grandmother dies. Now, for us who are adults, we know that the two are not related. But in the mind of a child, it makes perfect sense. I did not eat my vegetable. That's why grandmother died. I did not perform well in that test.
Yeah,
That's why mommy was beaten by daddy.
Oh dear.
I failed to win an award in swimming. That's why daddy is leaving mommy. You see, so what happens is that they turn it back to themselves, because when we don't love children the way children want and need to be loved, they don't hate us. They hate themselves.
That is quite something. And considering we've all been children before. So even as we listen to this conversation, I am reflecting on moments, either personally or for people that are close to me. Unfortunately, we have come to the end. But I want you to give us a parting shot of what rebuilding looked like for you, because I know you're still building in many aspects, in your parenting, in your co-parenting, in your relationship, in your business, in your newfound purpose and vision. You know, sometimes I think when I get to heaven, I'll ask God, really, did I have to go through all this so that other people can learn? Like, I don't have to be anybody's blackboard, you know. But anyway, that's why you exist, purpose and vision. But give us your closing remarks on how rebuilding looks like.
Rebuilding means first accepting there was a problem. And once you acknowledge that there is a problem, seek help.
Help, yeah.
So yes, I had to look up to God. And God will always direct you to the right path. So in my path, that's when I encountered Pastor Mweni. That courage to go and have a therapist, sit with you, and so that whatever needs to be unpacked, whatever needs to be done is done. Rebuilding also involves forgiving. You know, you can sit with Pastor Mweni forever, but if you've never forgiven yourself, and just having the courage to pick up the pieces and move on. And also rebuilding means you can share your story. It has really helped me
to share.
Sharing has helped me to rebuild. I haven't been able to share it on a very big platform like this, but in my own little way, I find I'm drawn. People who need help or going through a similar journey are drawn to me.
Yeah.
So because I have been through it, I'm able to
It's no
them.
longer book theory.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm able to guide them. So also when you're helping other people, that's part of rebuilding your story.
Wow.
And forget about the past. I mean, if God forgives and forgets, why do we keep going back? Then when you discover your purpose, you will rebuild easily. And that's how I pivoted into being a purpose and
vision. So when
coach.
I discover purpose, why I am here, then I'm able to rebuild.
You're able to rebuild because you will wake up every day with a reason as to why
with a fire for why I'm doing this.
Yes, even when things are not looking.
Yes.
You see, like Martin Luther King is the one who said, Junior, he's the one who said, keep moving even if you don't see the whole staircase. But just take the first step. First step. It's been a journey for me. Because I saw her after 10 years. Imagine.
Wow.
But it's been a journey. And I must say I'm proud of the Carol that I see today.
We are proud. And that even you sharing your story, I feel it gives you more power and removes power from the judges and people like that. Yeah. Pastor Mweni, your closing remarks. When I come to the couch or the association of therapy, please close it. Tell us.
Okay. The first thing is what Carol said, acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance, sometimes we have illusions that acceptance is running towards the problem and embracing the problem. And
it is mine, I take you.
No.
Yeah.
Acceptance is saying, this is what there is. I see it for what it is, and I break down all resistance. I don't have a job. I've lost my job. I've lost my marriage. I've lost my house. I've lost this. I've lost the business. Now, if I continue as though I had a business, my lifestyle will not change. So acceptance is being able to say, this is what has happened. Face it on. Okay. Number 2, ask questions. Now, many times we are afraid of questions because we want answers. We don't want questions. But do you realize that we are more united in our questions? Answers actually divide us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our questions unite us. So ask questions. Ask the people that have gone through this before you. Ask, is there help around? Ask Google.
Yes.
If nothing else.
And ChatGPT.
Ask ChatGPT. Ask your spiritual authority. Yeah. Ask your friends. Yeah. Ask. kuuliza si ujinga.
You're not the smartest tool in the shed.
Exactly,
Ask.
just ask. But finally, be authentic. Authenticity is saying that I am not going to be the person that I was told I am. I am going to allow myself to be the person that I actually am. Yeah? So I was told I am a loser because my business went down. I was told I'm a loser because I did not win the political seat. I was told I'm a failure because my marriage didn't work out. That's the label they give me, but it's not the one I answer to. It's not the names they call, it's the names that you answer, you respond to. So be authentic in your journey. Or to be authentic is to be honest, to be genuine, and to be true. Because ultimately, all truth sets free.
I love it. I will not add anything or subtract. We've learned and heard about loss, grief, and rebuilding. I wish we had more time. Like, I feel this is just the onion. We've removed the first part. There's a whole lot to go around. But if you're watching us and you're listening to us on all our platforms and you're looking to find out what's my purpose, why am I here, we can reach out to you on Facebook. That's Caroline Kusimba.
Yes.
Kusimba, Kusimba. And we can reach out to you, Pastor Mweni, at Mweni Wambua on Facebook. As we end, we always say, what a wow, what a time of heartfelt and candid conversations. I want to say thank you very much for sparing your time to be here with us. I want to say thank you to our partners that constantly hold our hand to ensure that we bring great content to you, whether you're seeing it or hearing us. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to God for such a wide platform. And he says, take dominion over the seas, over the air. And he makes this very possible. So thank you very much. My name is Wedera Kibinda, your favorite thought provoker and conversation starter. And this has been Heartfelt Conversations. So until next Tuesday, from all of us, it is cheerio and see you next week.